Hello, everyone. Welcome. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. The whole shebang. It is a pleasure to be back. I am back from my holidays, back from my vacation. And with the new year, I will be promising you guys Monday, Wednesday, Friday content with the intent of 2 to 3 streams a week as well. And the idea is that I will be back. I will be making content, and you guys will have me. And I'm really excited for that. So today, to kick off our video, I was inspired by a video from Sylveon's network. I did, in fact, get home probably about an hour before this video goes live. So I'm going to record this because our drive took a lot longer than we thought it would. We got stuck in traffic for like 6 hours. It sucks. I'm tired. I want to die. But on the other side, a tier list. Let's look at standard format. So Fusion Strike is the set we've got right now, and this is the Fusion Strike tier list made up by Celio's network. Check him out. I like Celios. He's really cool. I like Luke. He's a great guy. And now this tier list is going to kind of put us in a place leading into Brilliant Stars, which is going to be our next set. And if competitive still happens with everything going on, IRL events will be our first set that we have. So for the next 2-ish months, we'll have this set to hold. Probably in the next week or so, we'll get all the information on Brilliant Stars, the leaks, etc., etc. I will go through all those leaks with you guys here on the channel. So remember to subscribe, like, you know, the dealio. That would help me out a ton. We crossed 3,100 subs recently. The goal for the new year is to get to 5,000. If you guys want to help me out by the end of 2022. I forgot what year we're in. But let's jump right into it. So Bolton VMAX is a deck that I think is canonically bad. I don't really know why it's even on this list. I kind of feel like its typing is bad, its damage is bad. You don't have Coco Prism, you don't have Thunder Mountain, you don't have anything like really accelerating it. So I'm really gonna put Bolton VMAX down in F tier. I don't think it's crazy good by any means. Let's add a tier above this actually, and I'm gonna make this S. Okay, let's do it this way. S is like our BDIF kind of deal. I think only 1, maybe 2 decks should belong ever in an S tier per format. So this guy's going to go in F. Unfortunately, I think this deck sucks. I don't understand it. Gengar VMAX, I think, is a C tier deck. I think the Turbo variant has a good matchup into Mew. I feel like you can beat a lot of things, but the fighting weakness is really what's crippling the deck. And the fact that you really only have one good matchup, yes, it is the BDIF, is kind of why I put this here. Now, Moltres Togekiss is not a deck I have experimented with too much. I'm going to kind of put this into D because I feel like the idea is you're playing like a stall. No, I think it's an E. You're trying to do a lot at once, but you're not actually doing too much with it. Once again, the focus being on beating Mew, but you're strictly worse than other decks that are trying to beat Mew. So I think that's kind of where you have to go. Now, Victini, I think, goes into B just because Victini plus Hammers has really kind of done a number on a lot of decks. Hammers have always been like a cheese card that helps you get where you need to be. Victini plus Heat Energy gives you a little more HP than you kind of typically would have. And Victini is very self-sufficient. You play cards like Kabu to draw a bunch of cards. You have Hammers, you've got Fans, you've got other stadiums to kind of just keep you alive, keep you chugging. And you can just kind of do a lot of damage for very little, and you can kind of pick off 2 prize Vs before they can even become VMAXs, making Victini a very scary deck to play against if they get to go first against you. Now, Shadow Rider Calyrex, I think, also belongs in... I'm going to put it in C. I think Shadow Rider's kind of fallen off a little bit. I think Shadow Rider has lost a lot of its gusto that it kind of came into the format with. Unfortunately, it's a byproduct of having the same typing as the current best deck in format, and because of that, you're kind of just getting ramshackled by pretty much every dark type deck, and you're simply not ramping up to the damage that Mew VMAX can. And so decks like Gengar VMAX, decks like anything that's teching in a Moltres is unintentionally just giving you the kind of schlong here. Now, Eternatus is going to go into E tier. As much as I love Eternatus and Eternal Zone, the ability, and all that, hubbub that comes with it, all that good stuff, I feel like, unfortunately for us, Eternatus gets really punished by Path. And with the 2 energy attachments to kind of power it up, you're either playing Moltres plus like goodies to kind of get the ball rolling. Every deck has a way to kind of just pick off 3 things before you can do damage, because Eternatus is no longer one-shotting anything in the format, which makes it really hard for Eternatus to take their 6 prizes before they lose 3 2-prize weenies, effectively. I'm going to put Sylveon in B tier as well. I think Sylveon is this is Leafeon, my bad. Leafeon's not a bad deck, I think. I think Leafeon has a lot going for it, and especially with the V-Star coming out, I think it's going to elevate a little bit higher. I think it's a very complete deck overall in what it's trying to do. I think the damage output's not great. And the fact that Mew VMAX has For Your Treat is not great, but it is a very complete deck because Leafeon V is a very good card. Now, Jolteon, I believe, is also going to belong in B tier because I think Jolteon is a very strong deck. I think it's one of the few decks in the format that can really capitalize on having that nutso combo in your hand with the Elemental Badge, the Energy, the turn 2 Path plus Marnie. Like, you get all this kit and caboodle, and Jolteon is now all of a sudden doing a ton of damage to your board. You're setting up these 5 prize turns very easily. You're setting up that 1 free weenie knockout somewhere. You never have to take more than, you can take all of your prizes at one time, kind of making the allure of this deck very cool. I think Sylveon is also going to go into D tier. I think it's D tier, unfortunately. I think while Sylveon is a very cool deck, and I say that very sparingly, I really like Sylveon. I really like what it stands for. I like the flexibility of it. I just don't think you do enough in this current format. I think your Psychic typing doesn't get you where you need to be. I think teching in cards like Urshifu doesn't get you where you need to be. If you're playing a Dark type variant with Moltres, why aren't you just playing a Moltres-based deck? If you're playing a Grass type variant with Leafeon, why aren't you just playing a Leafeon-based deck? All the variants for the deck just kind of feel better as a standalone, and Leafeon just feels like, or not Leafeon, Sylveon feels like a hindrance more than a help in all of these decks. I still put it in D tier because I think the Rapid Strike Toolbox concept can still be very, very strong. So that's where I put it. Unfortunately, Rayquaza is going to go flat into F tier. Yes, I do think Rayquaza is now worse than Togekiss and Eternatus. I think Rayquaza is just strictly really bad right now. You're not getting what you need out of the deck. You're not one-shotting anything. You have to play Rose. You have to play Flappy. You got to play all these like cards that don't really get you anything. I think with Arceus, maybe it'll be pretty good coming up in the next format, but right now it's not very good. Now Draladon goes into B tier. Draladon has made its showing at a couple of tournaments here and there, kind of proving that it can stand up to the big boys. Having Draladon's ability really makes it so you can't get damaged by Rapid Strike Urshifu, can't get damaged by Mew, some of the single strike cards, but I think the biggest flaw is obviously you can get one shot by anything. You can kind of heal your way through Jolteons and Leafeons potentially, but I feel like the matchup is still really hard into like these 3 decks that are also in B tier right now with you, which is making it look really difficult for me to place it any higher. Yeah, now Crabominal is a D tier deck. I think it's funny. I don't think it's good. I think it's very funny, is why I'm going to put it here. I think Inteleon also falls into D tier. I think Inteleon, unfortunately, did not live up to its hype. Inteleon was like one of those decks that I thought was going to be really cool with the Cheryl engine, the healing, etc., etc. But I think the damage output of this format is currently a little bit too high. I think it's a little bit hostile for a deck like Inteleon to kind of flourish. You need a little bit too many cards to kind of fit into your 60-card combo. I think if this deck was allowed 70 cards, it'd be really good. But with the 60 cards you're available to you, I don't think it's very strong. Now, if anyone wants to disagree with me on this one, you're wrong. Mew VMAX is the best deck in the format, undeniably, undisputably. Yeah, that's it. That's all I've got for you. Obstagoon, I think, is another E tier deck. I think it's a deck that thrives off of beating simply Mew VMAX. I think while being one prize, it's very cool, but the deck doesn't actually do anything. I think it's very mediocre for what it is. I think it's very mediocre in terms of what it offers, and it's also a single prize deck that's a stage 2, so it takes a really long time to set up. Suikun Greedent, I think we have to put it in D just because it's like a Suikun based deck. I think Suikun's a very good card, and so Suikun kind of gets you rolling. Greedent helps you kind of pick off those weenies, gets you those extra prize turns. It's a very cute, cheeky deck, not very good though. Single Strike goes into A tier for me. I think Single Strike is a very clunky deck. I think Single Strike is being played very wrong, and lists are very all over the place. But I think Single Strike still has a place, has a home in A tier, because it's one of the few decks that can beat any deck in the format if it starts setting up, if it starts rolling. And it has a very natural type advantage into Mew VMAX, which is very good for it. And I think Umbreon VMAX is a very good card. I think Houndoom is a very solid engine. Urshi Melanie, I'm going to be putting into A tier as well. I think Rapid Strike Urshi is a very good deck. I think Melanie adds a layer to it that's very strong. I think you just get a lot going for you. You can do a lot without having too much downside affected to you. I'm going to be putting Rapid Inteleon into B tier. I think any Rapid Strike deck, like Urshifu deck, is not going to be lower than B tier, just because I think the Rapid Strike Urshifu is just a really good deck and a card overall. I think it offers a lot to the game, to the deck, to the metagame. Like just the fact that you're able to pick off 2 things on the bench very easily, set up 2 V knockouts pretty easily, makes it just the fact that you can take 4 prizes at once is very strong. I don't know if Dragapult is even good. I've never actually played this deck. I don't even know what it does, so I'm going to put it in F. We're going to move on to the next thing. Genesect Toxicity, by virtue, I feel like it's going to be better than these 3. Probably on the same power level as it's somewhere between these 2, but I'm going to give it an E tier just because I like Genesect's ability, and Genesect's ability means you can draw a bajillion cards, which makes it more likely that you hit your saucers, makes it more likely that you hit your Alessa Sparkles, whatever you need to kind of set up the board. And by virtue of that, you're finding your Toxicities, you're finding those cards. If you play Chili Silent and Crest, you can find those cards much easier. Yeah. I think Drag goes into C tier. I'm still putting Drag as high as I am because it's a very strong Path to the Peak related deck. And similar to Victini, with Crushing Hammers, you can kind of cheese a lot of matchups. So even if you're kind of getting affected by the same like weaknesses that Mew gets hit by, you have this this natural like Hammer Fan defense against some of these decks. Like, so if you can go Hammer Fan Path and stick it into a Moltres and set up a basically like hit a Moltres, hit something on the bench, bring something else up, hit it, kill the Moltres, or like set up the damage on the Moltres. Like, you can play the game and set up the pricing and the numbers the way you want it to, while also using Path to the Peak expertly to stick stuff. I think Galarian Weezing is a solid C tier deck as well. It's not paired with anything here, right? Yeah. So I think this deck is really cool. I think it has a lot to offer, but I think it's, again, very vanilla, very standard, very boring across the board is how I put it. And there's a lot of decks that can still punish you because they don't really need abilities. But if you can get, like, cheese a win, you can always cheese a win. That's, like, simply how I put it. Ice Rider, I think, also goes into C tier. I think Ice Rider is very consistent, very heavy damage output deck, very easy to operate. But I think the fact that you have to use Melanie is very telegraphed, so your turns get very telegraphed at a certain point. And you're going to be in situations where you need a Melanie and Boss in the same turn. And that's really what kind of damns this deck, like dooms it. I think Urshi Moltres is A tier. A lot of people will disagree with me on this. I think Urshi Moltres is one of my favorite decks still. I think it's the only deck I'd play outside of Mew VMAX right now. Because I think the deck has flexibility to beat pretty much everything in S, A, and B tier. Not reliably in S, unfortunately, but I think you can beat A and B tier very reliably. And you have good matchups into everything here. And you can set up rapid flows. I guess the Melanie version can set up easier if that's the case. But I really like the ability to have Moltres to offset the prize trade as well. And I think it's a cool card. I think it's a cool concept. Zacian, probably D tier. I don't really know what it beats right now. It's another 2-prize deck that just exists. But by virtue of its ability and by virtue of having Zamazenta, it becomes a very strong deck. Suikun, just straight Suikun, goes in B. I think you need your opponents to make a lot of mistakes to even kind of have a chance in games with straight Suikun. But again, by virtue of Suikun existing in the deck, I think the deck is really cool. You have a lot of space this way, so you can play more disruption cards like fans, hammers, whatever. Togekiss Greedent also goes in E. I don't really believe in Togekiss decks. Maybe it's just an F deck, dude. I don't even know if this deck's good. This doesn't feel good. You don't beat anything, I don't think. Suicune Ludicolo is a B tier deck, but I feel like this is a deck that could also go into A. It's my like one deck that I feel like could go into either. Just because of the potential that it has. Or the potential to pop off, the potential to blow up, the potential to punish your opponent at the overbench. Inteleon is an E tier deck. I don't really understand why you would just play this version of Inteleon and need the other VMAX as well. And at that point, you're kind of crowding your deck, so it just becomes strictly worse. Straight Ice Rider Calyrex, probably... I'll put it in D. I'll be generous. I'll give it a D ranking. You still do a ton of damage, and you can two-shot stuff, but again, you're telegraphing your Melanie. You don't have Suicune to kind of offset the prize trade either, so you're basically just sending 2 horses up to die and like do your best kind of thing. And you're not one-shotting anything, which makes the deck just strictly bad. Rapid Strike Malamar, C tier deck. Very cool deck. Probably it's one of the 2 1-prize decks that can actually stand up to anything in the format. It's an okay deck. I like it. Same with Moltres. I think Moltres goes... I'll give Moltres B. I'll give Moltres a B tier deck because it has a really good matchup in Mew. It has a really good 1-prize deck that kind of fends for itself. It kind of gets to play the game the way you want to play it. And now, all that being said, this is my Fusion Strike tier list. This should hold kind of till Brilliant Stars. Yeah, that's the tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed the content. I will be back on Wednesday with another video. I hope you guys are enjoying the Battle Breakdown series. I know I pre-uploaded a lot of videos before I left for vacation, so I hope you guys enjoyed those. All that being said, please leave feedback, please leave comments. I want to do a New Year's Q&A at some point, so if you guys have any questions, answers for me, leave that in the comments below. We will try to hit a New Year's Q&A in a week or something like that, and so you guys can get to know me a little bit, and I'll put that on YouTube, obviously, not on Twitch. It'll be for you guys specifically, so please subscribe, like, and thank you for being a part of my journey, and we're going to do better.